Hi, everybody. Ian Bremmer here, and a quick take to kick off your week back here in New York City. I want to talk about how people are responding to President Trump all over the world. The United States is in a particularly strong position. Trump has consolidated a lot of power, and he is willing to use that power to get what he wants from other countries. So how do you respond? Over the weekend, we saw in Colombia, no, not the university, the country, that one of the top priorities for Trump, which is to get the illegal migrants in the United States, over 11 million of them, according to the best data that we have. Trump says some 15 to 20 million, wants to get them out and sent back to the countries of origin. And a lot of countries are saying, okay, we're willing to work with you, we'll take them back. But Colombia said, no, we're not actually accepting those planes. And the response by President Trump was immediately 25%, maybe 50% tariffs, and shut off visas and shut down diplomatic engagement. And there was an immediate response by President Petro that was over the top, and as Trump's own responses are over the top, and going to completely hit the Americans back really hard. Now, America is Colombia's most important trade partner, and the size of these countries is a little bit different. And within a couple of hours, Petro very quietly accepted Trump's terms. The deported Colombians will be accepted back in Colombia, and the trade war with Colombia is in our rear view mirror. Not really a surprise, right? So, I mean, Trump is going out there and he's saying all these extraordinary, extravagant things, huge exaggerations about what he demands and what he wants. And, I mean, if you're Colombia, the response was absolutely on par. I mean, the post that we saw from President Petro, who is also kind of a populist firebrand on the left, isn't enormously popular, frankly, and has had a lot of difficulty in passing economic policies, but he gave it a shot. And it was entertaining to watch and read, and a lot of Colombians responded well to it. It felt like good old nationalism. And of course, he had to back down. Why? Because you're not allowed to do the same thing that Trump is. It's not just about who's right. It's also about who's powerful. And Trump's more than happy to hit him with a stick. And so that turned out to be a loss pretty quickly for the Colombian government. There are a lot of other countries that are working the same way. I see this happening with Mexico, where the Mexican president has been incredibly careful. U.S. is the most important relationship. Suddenly they are, seizing enormous amounts of fentanyl, more in one seizure than they've done in 4 years under Biden, and showing Trump, look at what we can accomplish because we know this is important to you, and working to get Chinese trade and investment that is problematic and coming through to the United States out of Mexico, and willing to put more money and resources, people on Mexico's southern border to reduce the numbers of people that are coming through Mexico into the United States. They desperately don't want to fight with the Americans. They're going to make a lot of offers, call it defense, call it capitulation, but that's definitely what you're seeing. I see this from Denmark, which is publicly trying to say nothing. And there have been some leaks, but in general, it's been very careful, both from Denmark and all of the Nordic leaders I've spoken to. They've been very, very careful, nothing public about the challenges that they're having. Of course, privately, completely unacceptable that the United States would make demands of Greenland and wouldn't work through a very stalwart, though small, ally, the Danes, who do everything the Americans ask in terms of coordinating on military exercises and providing support, multilateral support when the Americans want more participation in different wars or humanitarian support. You name it, the Danes are there. But that didn't matter to Trump. He said, I want Greenland. And they are privately trying really hard to get this out of the headlines, to say nothing that would be provocative, not respond the way the Colombian president did, not get Trump to do anything even more angry, and instead find a way to keep Greenland a part of Denmark, don't vote for independence, and keep the alliance stable. Most places around the world, that's what they're doing. They're acting like Mark Zuckerberg and Meta and all of those tech titans that have given the money and have gone down to Mar-a-Lago and are saying, no, we've always loved you, Trump, and we want to work with you, and please don't hurt us. But there are a few exceptions, and I think it's worth mentioning who I think they are. Exception number one, this may surprise you, Canada. Canada is an exception not because they're unfriendly with the US, not because they don't depend on the US, but because they have an election coming up. Their government fell apart, and now everybody in Canada is angry at the United States with all of this threat of tariffs, and we want more money for the Americans for security, and you guys should be a 51st state. Not only are the liberals angry, the conservatives are angry, and they have to kind of outdo each other to be tough on Trump in the United States, or they think they're going to lose the election upcoming. So the fact is that Trump, I think, made a strategic mistake in going after Canada early because the Canadians are not in the position to respond well, given the election. The other two exceptions, the Europeans, who want to be constructive with the US but have a stronger position if they can be collective through the EU, and on some areas they can. On Russia-Ukraine, they can be collective, which has helped them bring Trump closer to the European position on Russia-Ukraine in the last 3 months than he was when he was initially elected. On trade, on tariffs, on China, Europe is more collective and has more regulatory force as long as they can act together. That is going to continue to happen, gives them more leverage vis-a-vis the Americans. And then finally, the Chinese, who don't act collectively, but they are stronger as an individual country, and they're going to be much tougher to engage with, as we saw with the first phase one, phase two trade deal. It took a very long time to sort of come together, and then they didn't actually uphold a lot of what they promised. A lot of decent conversations, but the Chinese were much more willing to lecture Marco Rubio in their first call with the US Secretary of State than anyone else he has spoken with around the world. Why is that? Because the Chinese want to show they're not going to be pushovers and that they are tougher and bigger and stronger and can hit back the way that many other countries cannot. What does that mean for US-China relationship? Probably going to get worse before it gets better. That would be my bet at this point, but we'll see how much of a deal Trump really wants. That's it for me. I'll talk to you all real soon.